So in the past few months or maybe past few years, some people have been referring to EVs as junk. People do not see EV as the future. I own a car channel where I post about EVs and combustion engine cars, but a lot of people tend to hate when I post about, Tesla, Rivian and cars like that because they don't see the future going towards the direction. Well, in the video we're going to be checking out today is titled New Yorkers Won't Buy EVs. I wonder why. Let's see.
So many cars, every make, every model, but there's one kind of car you almost never see here in New York, the electric car.
You call this
no Tesla.
lots are filled with EVs. The consumer does not want them. I don't know whether to laugh or cry because I'm a car dealer.
I was a little nervous about going all EV.
EV adoption really does come down to charging infrastructure when you're on a road trip.
Tesla has slashed prices dramatically, and companies like Ford have ramped up hybrid production.
Would you put your daughter on the highway in an electric vehicle and have her pull?
I think Ford even cut the production of the F1 Lightning. Yeah, they cut it for now, or it's on hold for now. So yeah, it's a big issue.
Put your daughter on the highway in an electric vehicle and have her pull over on the side of the road and wait 2 hours to charge her vehicle? I wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
Only 1% of New York is on an electric vehicle.
Electric vehicle sales, they're declining nationally in America, but they've never really caught on here in New York either. In February, 8.5% of all cars sold in the US were EVs, but in March that had dropped to 7.3%. And in New York City, only 2,100 of the city's registered 2 million vehicles are electric vehicles, which means that only 1% of New Yorkers who own cars bought an electric car, which is strange because New York is one of the most progressive states in the entire country. And according to a survey by Yale University, 60% of New Yorkers worry about climate change. And since buying an EV could potentially reduce one's impact on the climate, you'd expect to see more of them on the road in New York. But in order to understand why 99% of New Yorkers aren't buying EVs, it's important to first learn why Americans are buying less of them.
Charging has been pretty challenging. I stopped at one of the most popular charging sites in the country. It took me about 40 minutes to get 40%. But
that was the CEO of Ford, and he was in the company's brand new Ford F-150 Lightning pickup on a road trip. And his goal was to drive from Silicon Valley to Las Vegas, which was about 530 miles. In a normal car, this should take about 9 hours, but the charging delays he encountered meant that his trip took longer than expected. Now, under perfect conditions, the Lightning would get about 320 miles range, which means he'd have to charge it once, maybe twice.
Ford hiked the starting price on its F-150 Lightning in March of 2023 to $60,000. Ford has since cut that to $49,000.
$50,000 for an F-150. You'd expect it to have zero issues if you paid that much for it, especially since it's supposed to be state-of-the-art. But he had to charge his Ford at a Tesla supercharger, and he got 40% more range in about 40 minutes, which is crazy when you think that that Camry right there can get 100% of its range in about 10 minutes at a gas station. And this happened just a few weeks after a Canadian driver abandoned his F-150 because none of the chargers he found worked. He was on a road trip, he found chargers, but they weren't working. It's new, complicated technology, it's got bugs, they're not all worked out. It's not like...
And people keep saying range anxiety is not a real thing. I see lots of videos where people say range anxiety is not a real thing because you don't drive your car that much anymore, or you don't drive, if you're driving in the city or you live in a town, you only need just about, is it 20 miles? They always speculate 20 miles per drive or per day. I understand what they mean, but I still think range anxiety is a real thing. One of the reasons I wouldn't buy an EV right now is because of the charging infrastructure and also the time. How would you want to go fill up your car and you have to wait 40 minutes? People would make up excuses like, oh, if you're going on a road trip, you're going to have to stop anyway and buy food or, use the washroom. And that way you can just charge your car. Fine, but what if every other person who is driving an EV is thinking the same way and you happen to be at the place and there are other people using the charging spots and now you have to wait? I'm not a hater. I love electric vehicles, but I feel like we haven't gotten there just yet. We'll see.
The old school gas pump where you just put it in and the gas comes out.
I was a little nervous about going all EV because my husband has an EV as well. I think the main issue is the long distance travel. Been kind of in that situation. You do have to plan.
Yes.
Range anxiety is real with any battery-powered device, no matter how big or small. And it's the #1 reason that stops people from buying an EV. Now, Teslas have better range and more charging options than any other EV maker because they've got their own charging networks all over the country. But it turns out people still don't like the idea that the thing they're driving in might not get them to their destination. Like, you know that feeling when your iPhone's about to die and you have to charge it and nobody has an iPhone charger? Well, this is your car.
Would you put your daughter on the highway in an electric vehicle and have her pull over on the side of the road and wait 2 hours to charge her vehicle when you have no idea who's pulling behind her waiting? I mean, I wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
So for
especially in winter, like people are not even speaking about winter and the conditions. It's going to be cold in the car and you're waiting there to charge your vehicle.
a lot of people, there just simply isn't enough support for owning an EV. There's gas stations on every corner, but finding places to charge it, it makes people nervous. And before we get into the things stopping most New Yorkers from buying an EV, we have to talk about cost. Because most EVs cost $10,000 or $12,000 more than a similarly equipped gasoline-powered vehicle. But money can't be the main issue for New Yorkers. After all, the average rent here for an apartment is $5,600 a month, so it can't be that. Plus, New York City geographically...
Wait, what did I hear? An average rent in New York is $5,600 a month. Wait, really? I was hearing Los Angeles was like $3,000 and I thought that was a lot. An average rent in New York is $5,600. Who's paying? How are you guys paying?
Issue for New Yorkers. After all, the average rent here for an apartment is $5,600 a month, so it can't be that.
That's
Plus,
wild.
New York City geographically is not hundreds of miles in size, and it would be weird for range anxiety to affect people that don't have very far to go. But believe it or not, New York is one of the most impractical places to own an electric vehicle, for several reasons, most of which aren't changing anytime soon. What you're looking at here is the first reason why EVs aren't really taking off here in New York. So let's say this is your car and this is the parking spot you found for it and it's an EV. How do you charge it? Seriously, how do you do it? Where's the plug? Car and Driver recommends everybody install a level 2 charger at their house, but if that's your car and that's your house, how
do you
exactly
install
are you
it?
gonna do that? There's
Right.
no garage, there's no parking. It's impossible to live in an apartment like this and own an EV and charge it. You'd need a house with a garage, and there's only about 200,000 of those in New York. But there are some luxury buildings that do have EV chargers inside them, but that's rare, and most luxury buildings, including the one I live in that has parking spaces, of which I use one, don't have any EV infrastructure. Plus, it's up to the landlord to put that stuff in. And even if you own a condo in a building like this, you can't just install stuff. You need the neighbor's permission and the condo board's permission, and somebody's got to pay for it. There's a lot of red tape. Also, owning any vehicle in New York is different than it is in the rest of the country. These cars aren't parked here because these are reserved parking spaces. These were empty spots on the street that the drivers happen to find. This one even has a parking ticket. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to park there if you live up in there. And many people who own cars without a dedicated parking spot end up walking several blocks from where they live to where they park. And their parking spot changes.
Wait, so you pay $5,600 and you don't even have parking, and you can't even park on the streets because you can get tickets, but you're paying $5,600, bro, man. How do you guys do it in New York? What kind of life is that? You know, I was complaining that Vancouver is $2,800 Canadian for an apartment, but people are paying 58,000 USD for an apartment. That's on the next level. Like, that's wild. That's just very wild. Yeah.
Every time they drive their car, because as soon as you leave, somebody else is going to take your spot, and now you got to hunt for one all over again. Now, one time I saw a Tesla parked in a spot like that, and there was a cord coming out of the car going into an apartment window. So someone was charging their car from a wall outlet, but wall outlets are the slowest type of charger, and that's not a repeatable process because, again, just because your window's here and your parking spot's here doesn't mean it's going to be like that all the time. But the next reason there's very few EVs in New York is even more interesting. This is one of the few places in New York where you can charge your EV on the street. That's what these cars are doing. They got these big plugs charging them up. And look at that. This vehicle's been charging for 75 hours. Look at that. It also has a City of New York license plate. In fact, these all have City of New York license plates. And of the 6 total charging stations that are here, there is only one that is available for use. This charging station has one star, and it says that city employees sometimes sometimes park their gas vehicles here and they don't get in trouble because they're city employees. And this car right here, it's been charging for 148 hours. That is ridiculous. Now look, I'm not trying to shame the city. These are not gasoline vehicles, and electric cars do take a long time to charge. There's just not enough chargers. And New York City's pretty pro-climate. You'd figure that they would be rolling these things out. It's a pretty good design. Doesn't take up that much space. You could get these on sidewalks, no problem. But look at this. There's one up here and one down here in Manhattan, just a handful of them in the city in total.
In New York, you need a lot of public chargers available to people. And so those are going to be in parking garages. You're also going to have them essentially out on the street. They're looking at doing a lot of side charging. But it is an enormous infrastructure build out that they are talking about doing.
So there's basically no public infrastructure like this to charge up your F-150 Lightning. And that means most people who own EVs, if it's not the government, they're people that have access regularly to some sort of private charger like this one on the other side of this fence. But it's up to your landlord or your company to install these, or the parking garage you park at during the week. Car and Driver says that access to charging while the car is parked is the #1 reason people won't buy. And you can see how that's a pretty big issue, especially here in New York. And the good news is that city leaders are aware that this is a problem. They're trying to roll out more of these, but it's proving to be a very slow process.
We're a year in now. The utilization's been huge. So DOT is already talking about targeting 1,000 by 2025.
Did you hear that?
1,000.
1,000 chargers.
By
it's going to take a while. And these things are not
and there are 2.1 million people.
Exactly economical to operate. They use a ton of power all the time. They're expensive to install.
2.1 million cars, I mean.
Look at all these wires and things. These are going to need regular maintenance, because if they're not working properly, what was the point of putting them in the first place? But since building out street-side charging networks like this one is going to take a long time, doesn't really look like New Yorkers are going to be able to buy an EV anytime soon and have a reliable way to charge it unless they already have access to a charger somehow. Like, let's say you got an EV. What are you supposed to do? Drive all the way out here and hope that nobody else nabs the one remaining charging spot? That doesn't make any sense. We're gonna need more of these, but even though New Yorkers aren't gonna be stocking up on electric cars anytime soon, there's another type of electric vehicle that we are addicted to, and they're everywhere.
Scooters.
So I checked, and pretty much every bike over here, except for the illegal unregistered scooters, is an e-bike, not a regular bike. New Yorkers aren't buying electric cars, but they're buying the electric versions of pretty much everything else. And you see those batteries? The city bikes are electric now too. So why is it these are so popular when electric cars aren't? Well, let me show you. I happen to have 2 e-bikes in my storage unit. Now, the reason that there's 2 of them is because I ride them both for different purposes. This one right here, it looks like an SUV, weighs as much as an SUV. It's kind of slow, but I use it pretty much for errands. And that big back seat right there will let you carry a passenger. The battery that it comes with is also pretty big. Both bikes have the same capacity battery, and with this one, I only have to charge it 1 to 2 times a month, and it doesn't get ridden more than once or twice a week. But that's because my favorite bike gets all the love. And I've actually been riding around on it today to make this video. I've had to stop at 5 different locations, and I was able to get to all of them pretty quickly. Extremely quickly. Let me show you.
Anyways, let me know what you think about that video, why New Yorkers do not buy EVs. Feel free to share your reasons, because people have different reasons. Like on my other channel, I get people telling me different things. People even criticize the videos, because when I make these videos and I try to be open-minded and kind of like objective about the content, people think I'm leaning towards one side. They're like, EVs are not the future, stop misleading people. People come frying me, but I don't make videos to, like, you know, criticize EV. I like technology. You know, I advocate for EV technologies to be better. Right now, I don't think EV is there just yet. Wait, listen to what I'm saying. I don't think EVs are there just yet. It might be there in the future, but it's not in a place where I would buy an electric car. If somebody gave me an electric car, I would accept it, but I wouldn't spend my money to buy it right now because I have range anxiety. I don't want to go to a place and think, oh, what if my battery finishes? I know how it feels like when I have my phone and I don't have my charger. But feel free to share your thoughts. A lot of you might have very different opinion, especially right now. The Bolt EUVs are selling so much. People really like those cars, and it has like a 5-star rating. So it means people like EVs. So there are lots of people that like EVs and advocate for it, and they have their reasons, and they've never been disappointed. So, you know, whatever direction or option or sentiments you share, feel free to talk to us in the comment section. That being said, is the end of this one. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.